The most expensive mistakes is keeping capital where you don't understand why you should earn. Usually people are destroyed by impulsive decisions, leverage, and lack of liquidity. Liquidity? Do you have air or are you forced to sell? The most costly mistakes in a moment of panic. The coming crisis. What to do and how to prepare. Hello, today we'll talk about a topic that's been floating around a lot lately. It's not always mentioned out loud due to the fear, but almost everyone senses its approach in one way or another.
First time?
I'm talking about coming crisis. Let me be clear. I won't play prophet and predict will it happen or won't it happen. In what month or at what level will it all collapse?
Nobody. I don't care if you're Warren Buffett or if you're Jimmy Buffett, nobody knows if the stock is gonna go up, down, sideways, or in fucking circles.
It's pointless. It's much more useful to discuss how to prepare so that a crisis, shouldn't it happen, doesn't turn you into the kind of person who makes the most costly mistakes in a moment of panic. Because markets rarely destroy people in a single crash. Usually people are destroyed by impulsive decisions, leverage, and lack of liquidity. Let's break this down like adults. Let's talk what a crisis really is and what it's always sudden. It's often mistakenly believed that a crisis is simply a sharp market decline. However, a true crisis occurs when the traditional mechanics of trust and liquidity collapse. Under normal conditions, money flows freely. Credit is readily available, risks are roughly priced by the market, and participants are confident in their ability to sell assets or raise financing. During a crisis, however, liquidity suddenly disappears. Credit lines are sharply reduced. Previously reliable partners lower their limits, and many investors realize they held their positions not out of the conviction, but simply because they were physically unable to exit them earlier. It's important to understand crises don't arise from negative news, they arise from the financial system's inability to effectively absorb risks. Why people lose? Because they try to prepare as traders, not as asset managers. They look for which asset will take off, where to hide, what to buy right now, and they miss the main point. A crisis is a test of structure. A crisis hits three things: liquidity, do you have air or are you forced to sell? Debt, are your obligations holding you back? Cash flow, is there something in your system that comes in systematically rather than based on market sentiment? If these 3 points are weak, people start to panic. To better understand the mechanics of crisis, I suggest going through the key crises, starting with the dot-com bubble, not as a textbook, but as a lesson for an investor. Dot-com crash 2000-2022. When the future doesn't pay today's bills. The dot-com lesson in one sentence: a dream about the future is not the same as a business with money today. The technology was real. The internet was real. The future did arrive, but investors bought expectation at prices as if profits already existed. Result: the Nasdaq fell roughly 78% from its peak. The market wasn't wrong about the technology, the market was wrong about the price and the timing. Lesson: if your returns depends only on behaving, later it will all work out. A crisis will hit that first. 2008-2009, Great Recession, a crisis of trust, leverage, and complex products. This wasn't a crisis of a bad news, it was a crisis of structure. The system built a pyramid of debt, wrapped risk in pretty ratings, spread it across the world. And then, at some point, everyone realized it only works while everything keeps rising. At the lows, the S&P 500 was roughly down 57% from the peak. Lesson: complexity doesn't make a system smarter, it often makes it more fragile. 2011-2012 Crisis of confidence in government debt. That period was marked by high instability. The European sovereign debt crisis, the US credit rating downgrade, and slowing growth in emerging markets. The root causes were accumulated debt loads, default risk in parts of the Eurozone like Greece and Italy, and weak points inside financial system. Lesson: reliability is not a brand. Reliability is how an asset behaves in a stressed scenario. COVID shock 2020, the crisis of speed. This crisis provides one thing: the world can stop faster than your strategy can be updated. S&P 500 dropped about 34% in a very short stretch from the February peak to the March bottom. And then came violent rebounds. Classic. Bear market traps. Lesson: crises often arrive as unbelievable events, but they hit the most basic things: liquidity, debt, and cash flow. Inflation 2022. The crisis of the price of the money. That cycle reminded everyone: interest rates are gravity. When rates rise, future profits get discounted, more harder, risk appetite falls, and long-duration stories become heavier. In 2022, the S&P 500 fell roughly 25% down. Lesson: cheap money isn't forever, and when it leaves, markets start loving cash flow and discipline. What risks typically underlie the next wave? I'm not here to sell you horror stories, I'll just name the usual pressure points that show up in phases like this. Pressure from high rates and expensive borrowing. When rates rise, debt servicing becomes more expensive. This can lead to companies and individuals struggling to make payments, increasing their risk or default. Decreased availability of money for borrowers. During periods of economic instability, banks and other lenders become more cautious and tighten lending conditions. This makes it more difficult for businesses and consumers to access financing. Overheated markets where a lot of money is tied up in expectations. When markets rise too quickly, asset prices can significantly exceed their actual value. This creates the risk of a correction when prices return to more realistic level, which can lead to significant losses for investors. Moments when liquidity suddenly disappears and the only way to exit is at discount. During period of crisis, investors may simultaneously attempt to sell their assets, leading to a sharp decline in prices and making it difficult to exit positions without significant losses. Increased nervousness in credit segments where leverage is high and transparency is low. High leverage and low transparency can lead to investors and lenders losing confidence in the market, increasing instability and the risk of crisis. This isn't necessarily the end of the world. More often, it means the system has less tolerance for mistakes and less room for illusions. You will ask, so what should I do? Here is my practical preparation plan. I'm going to give you a 7-step plan. It's grounded as it is, no heroics. It doesn't promise you'll make money off the crisis. It's designed to help you stay standing through one. Step 1. A liquidity buffer. Without it, everything else is pointless. A buffer is money for life, usually 1 to 3 months of basic expenses: housing, food, bills, transportation. The Kushon job isn't to generate returns. Its job is to make sure you never end up in a situation where I'm urgently need a cash, so I'm forced to sell assets at a loss. A crisis almost always beats the people who invest without a buffer. Step 2. Audit your debts and fixed obligation. If you have loans, installment plans, running obligations, a crisis turns them into an anchor. A very simple test. If your income drops by 20-30% for a few months, do you stay in control or does chaos start? If chaos starts, there will be no more questions of which asset to buy. It's a structure problem. Reduce the load, lower fixed repayments, make the system more resilient. Step 3. Remove the minefields: leverage, concentration, unclear yield. 3 things blow up most often under stress. Leverage, because it doesn't give you time. Concentration, because one mistake breaks the whole portfolio. Unclear yield, where you can't explain who pays you and why the yield exists at all. If you don't understand the source of return during a crisis, it turns into it's gone. Step 4. Divide capital by roles, not by favorite tickers. This is how funds and serious asset managers operate. Money needs roles: protection, your buffer stability, things that shouldn't die because of headline; income, things that generate a stream; growth, things that provide upside over time. Most people keep everything in one basket called "I hope it goes up." That's not a structure, that's a bet. Step 5. Add something that runs on payments, not on expectations. In periods like this, what's valued most is return built on obligation: term, rate, schedule, source of payments. That's why in a world of expensive capital, interest in credit strategies and private credit grows, because you don't have to believe in market mood. What matters is borrower quality and deal terms. For a private investor, the logic is the same. It's useful to keep part of the portfolio in instrument where returns are tied to payments, not to whether the market decides to reprice it. Step 6. An information diet. This may sound surprising, but in a crisis, attention is often more expensive than money. News does 3 things: creates urgency, destroys your time horizon, forces you to rebuild your plan every week. But capital isn't built through reactions. Capital is built through repetition of good actions. If you want real resilience, reduce the frequency of checking and filter information sources. Step 7. Rules in one page. This is the most important step because it turns you from reacting into managing. On one page, bucket allocation, limits per idea or instrument, contribution schedule, monitoring frequency, rebalancing rules, stress scenarios. What you do in a drawdown when risk rise, when income weakens. If you don't have rules, under pressure, your emotions will decide for you. What role can P2P crowd lending play when preparing your portfolio for a market crash? Now the logical question. If a crisis hits, what do you do with your portfolio? I'm not saying move everything into one solution, that's always a mistake, but I will explain why P2P crowd lending often becomes a reasonable part of the income block in periods like this, because it's built on a simple mechanics. Capital is issued to a business, the business pays interest, the investor receives cash flow. Yes, there is a credit risk and liquidity risk, but these are normal, ground level risk. The borrower, the business, legal structure, collateral. It's not the risk of a protocol got hacked and everything disappeared, and not the market just changed its mind. And if you use it correctly, as part of a structure, not as a magic button, it can increase the predictability of your portfolio's cash flow. 3 simple rules. Allocation: don't turn an income instrument into your entire portfolio. Diversification: many small deals matter more than one perfect deal. Terms: respect the term. This isn't trading, it's capital deployed for a period. And the main filter, you must be able in 2 sentences to explain who pays your return and what they are paying for. Why P2P and private credit survive crisis? It's not magic, it's mechanics. During a crisis, it's not the market that breaks. What breaks is the assumption that price must rise up. Price is mood, plus liquidity. During a crisis, mood disappears, liquidity compresses, and even good assets fall because someone is forced to sell. And here is the key difference. There are assets about price and there are assets about payments. A crisis hits price first. Survival is built on payments. What holds up during a crisis in stress moment? The market stops paying for stories and pays for two things: necessity. Businesses that support basic processes, logistics, transport, equipment, warehousing, production, working capital, contract, term, rate, and a payment schedule. This doesn't remove risk, but it turns risk from panic into manageable math. There is an obligation to pay and a protection structure if payments stop. Why credit models are more resilient? When a business borrows for a specific purpose, working capital, equipment, a shipment, it has a strong incentives to pay, otherwise it loses its ability to operate. Credit return is a price for risk and access to capital. During a crisis, capital becomes scarce. Its price rises, demand for financing from healthy businesses remains. Why P2P can be an anti-crisis layer in a portfolio? P2P isn't a replacement for markets. It's another layer with different mechanics, less dependence on market price. Income follows a payment schedule, a maturity ladder, not just yield, but when money returns matters. Diversification by payments, dozens of small contracts instead of one big bet. Transparency, who the borrower is, why they need money, terms, collateral, what happens in default. Main conclusion: the most expensive mistakes is keeping capital where you don't understand why you should earn at all. Important clarification: it's not safe, it's understandable. I'm not saying 100% reliable, that doesn't exist. I'm saying risk can be named, measured and limited. Reliability in 2026 is not a logo and not promises, it's the answer to what happens if things don't go by the plan. Simple filter: real borrower, verification, clear deal structure, collateral and control, transparent terms, and solid communication in problem situations. Where 8Lens fits in this logic? It's very simple. That's exactly why at 8Lens we choose this niche. Not a product about expectations, but an instrument about contract and economics. We connect investors with small and medium businesses where the loan is tied to real task and real assets. And we add an extra collateral control layer through a collateral agent as Maclear AG, based in Switzerland. So collateral and terms aren't just trust the pretty website. This doesn't remove risk, but it makes it conscious. What is checked, how it's structured, what are the rules are. And if after all the stories about big brands you're left with one question, where can I see the real deal instead of believing in loud slogans, that's where P2P and crowd lending becomes a logical answer. And a final, a crisis is an exam on your system. If we reduce everything to one thesis, a crisis is not an event, a crisis is an exam of your structure. If you have liquidity, rules, diversification, and understandable sources of return, you pass through. If instead of a system you have hope and impulses, a crisis usually takes both your money and your confidence. Write one thing in the comments. What's stronger in your portfolio right now? Structure or hope? Subscribe to the channel, share it with your friends who need it. If you like it, hit like, and most importantly, share your view in the comments. Visit our website where all our processes are explained, and check our Telegram channel. There is a lot of useful information there. Thanks for being with me. See you next time.